Speak. Prosody rate equals 90%. Prepare to discover the story of Maria Estuardo, the queen who ruled from a prison. How did you survive the betrayal and intrigue of the English court? Subscribe and activate the bell so as not to miss anything about this exciting story. Well, let's talk about Maria Estuardo. No. His life was a real whirlwind, a mixture of luxury and prison, of hope and despair. Imagine. A queen from the crib, heiress of a disputed throne, with the blood of kings and queens running through her veins. From a young age, it was surrounded by political intrigues and the constant threat of betrayal. Her beauty was legendary. They say she captivated anyone who saw her. But that beauty did not protect her from the hard realities of the court. He had to deal with conspiracies, religion wars, and the relentless ambition of his enemies that in spite of everything. She maintained an impressive inner strength, a determination that led her to fight for her rights until the end. His story is full of unexpected twists, moments of great joy and others of deep sadness, a passionate romance, a struggle for power, a long and cruel imprisonment. Was a complex woman, full of contradictions, a queen who ruled from the shadow, a figure that until today continues to fascinate and inspire. Well, you already know that Maria was born queen, but how was her childhood? Imagine a girl surrounded by luxury, raising in Stirling's castle, an imposing place. Since childhood, he received a first-class education, although a bit messy that we talk about Latin, French, Italian classes, and even some music and dance. But remember, Scotland in the 16th century was not exactly a stability paradise. His education, although sophisticated, was marked by the political instability of Scotland. The wars between clans, conspiracies, and the struggle for power were part of their day-to-day. Despite luxury, little Maria lived in an environment of constant threat, surrounded by bodyguards and always with the shadow of nearby violence. Can you imagine living like this? For her, childhood was a strange mixture of privileges and danger. In spite of everything, the girl Maria learned fast. He was intelligent, observer, and with a great ability to learn languages and absorb information. His education was not only limited to letters. He also learned the complexities of the political game, observing the intrigues of the court and disputes between the nobles. These early experiences forged her in a cunning and tenacious queen, although perhaps also a bit insecure for everything she lived. Well, your education was impeccable, preparing you for the weight of a crown. You learned Latin, French, Italian, history, music, a whole queen. But at age 6, your father, Jacobo V, died, leaving you as the heiress of the Scottish throne. Imagine the pressure. A girl, queen of a turbulent kingdom. Your coronation was an impressive event at such a young age. You sat on the throne of Scotland, surrounded by nobles, with a heavy crown on your head. You should have felt small, but at the same time immensely powerful. Remember the images, the rich fabrics, the brightness of the jewels. A whole scene worthy of a Renaissance painting. But the childhood of a queen is not like that of any other girl. Your life was full of political intrigues, conspiracies, and struggles for power. Although you were the queen, you were surrounded by directors, regents, adults who handled the reins of your kingdom while you grow up. It was an unusual childhood, right? A real childhood, but full of challenges. So, at age 6, you became Queen of Scotland. But governing such a turbulent country was not an easy task, right? From the beginning, your marriage became a key piece in the complex chess game of European politics. You needed powerful alliances to protect your throne and ensure the stability of your kingdom, a kingdom constantly threatened by the ambitions of your neighbors. Your first marriage, fixed for political reasons, was with the young Francisco Delphin de France. It was a strategic union, an alliance with one of the most important powers in Europe. But how happy were you really? I imagine that, between court intrigues and political pressures, love was not a priority. After Francisco's death, you faced a new situation. Returning to Scotland, your kingdom, was a risky, but necessary step. Marriage became a crucial political tool again. Who would you ally with now? What king or prince could offer you the protection you needed to stay on the throne? The stability of Scotland depended on your marriage decisions. /prosody /speak. Speak, prosody rate equals 90%. But the Scottish crown was not just a political chess game. Your own faith, your Catholicism, became a crucial record on that board. Scotland was divided, you knew it, among the fervent Catholics, who saw their hope in you, and the Protestants, increasingly powerful and influential. The tension was palpable, a fucking wick about to explode. John Knox, that Protestant preacher so charismatic and radical, saw you as a threat, a heretic that should be overthrown. His sermons inflamed the mood, inciting rebellion against your authority and your faith. It was a struggle for the soul of Scotland, a battle between two visions of the world, two interpretations of the Word of God. Imagine the pressure, you being a young queen, forced to navigate between two raging seas. That on the one hand, the pressure of the Catholic nobility, which supported you faithfully, but that often faced the Protestants. That on the other, the growing strength of the Protestant movement, which challenged your authority with each sermon and each act of rebellion. Your reign became a constant balance on the tightrope. Between the growing threat and instability of Scotland, you decided to seek refuge in England. Queen Elizabeth I, your cousin, seemed the only option, despite the complex relationship that your families shared. It was a huge, clear risk, but the alternative was worse: death or life imprisonment at the hands of your enemies. The trip was arduous, full of hidden dangers. Every moment was a bet, every step a challenge. Uncertainty was chasing you, the shadow of betrayal cindered over you. But the hope of finding asylum in the English court promoted you to move on, despite the fear that you felt inside. Finally, you arrived at the English court. The opulence and splendor of the court of Isabel I brutally contrasted with the uncertainty of your situation. Isabel, your cousin, received you with a mixture of caution and suspicion. His smile was cold. His penetrating gaze. You knew that your refuge in England was nothing more than a truce, a prelude to a new power game, much more dangerous. Your arrival in England was not the expected welcome. Isabel, although your cousin, saw in you a threat to her reign. He received you with an apparent courtesy, but distrust was palpable soon. The accusations began to emerge, whispers in court, intrigues woven in the shadow. They confined you, first in country houses, then in increasingly imposing and restrictive castles. The accusations of betrayal became stronger. You were involved in conspiracies against Isabel, plans to dethrone it and claim the English throne for you. Although you denied everything, the evidence, often manufactured or misunderstood, piled up against you. Every day that passed, your situation became more desperate. Your imprisonment lasted for years, from Castillo in Castillo, always under narrow surveillance. Your freedom became a distant dream. Loneliness, uncertainty, and constant threat of judgment persecuted you. Queen Elizabeth, despite family ties, was relentless, using your imprisonment as a control tool and to quell any threat to her power. Soon, the prison became your reality. Isabel, with her cold diplomacy, kept you captive, but not just physically. Your very presence was a constant threat to its power, a reminder of a rival lineage that many still supported. Every day it was a struggle to maintain your dignity, for not succumbing to the pressure of a queen who considered you a thorn stuck in her crown. They constantly watched you, your movements were controlled, and any attempt to communicate with your supporters was quickly suffocated. Isabel I, on the other hand, maneuvered with skill. It did not eliminate you directly, because your execution could turn on a civil war. He preferred to stay as a symbol of his power, a warning for any other that dared to challenge her. The rivalry was not just politics. It was personal. The spectrum of your possible claim to the English throne pursued her, feeding her distrust and paranoia. She herself looked constantly threatened by the shadow of your legacy. The struggle for power was fought in the courts of the court, in the secret alliances, in the palatial intrigues. Each conspiracy, each rumor, fed the conflict between you two. It was a silent war, a battle of wills that would last for years, with devastating consequences for both kingdoms and for you. In particular, the shadow of rivalry extended above all, poisoning relations and shaping the fate of an era. Prosody, speak. Speak. Prosody rate equals 90%. But Isabel's cold strategy did not keep you completely isolated. From your prison, you kept weaving threads, looking for allies that could free you. That's where Anthony Babington enters, a young Catholic, fervent in her loyalty to you and convinced that your liberation was crucial for the restoration of Catholicism in England. He offered you a bold plan, a plot that promised to get you out of your captivity, but at the same time became your death sentence. Babington's conspiracy was an intricate framework of secret letters, furtive encounters, and promises of help. Your escape was planned, with the help of Spanish soldiers who would disembark in England to support you. You, from your prison, approved the plan, believing that it was your only opportunity to recover your freedom and your kingdom. You ignored the reach of Isabel's spy network, which already observed you, following each of your movements, each of your steps. Isabel's network was relentless. Each letter that entered or left your cell was intercepted, read, analyzed. The encrypted conversations, the support promises, everything was under the control of the Queen. The correspondence between you and Babington, which contained details of the plot, fell to Isabel that it was the definitive proof that she needed to end up with you once and for all. Your destiny, once again, was sealed. So, Babington fell, and with him your network of hope. The trial approached, a show designed to humiliate you. They accused you of betrayal, of conspiring against Queen Elizabeth, an accusation that, although based on intercepted letters, resonated with the fear and distrust that Isabel had cultivated around you. Imagine the atmosphere. The crowded court, the noble whispers, everyone's eyes on you. Your lawyers, although skilled, had an almost impossible task. The tests, although circumstantial, were presented with the force of a hammer. Each letter, every testimony, one more piece in the puzzle that Isabel had carefully built to ensure your conviction. Did you feel alone, abandoned, or did you remain firm in your conviction of innocence? The accusers, mostly English nobles, painted you as a threat, an ambitious and dangerous queen, willing to recover the throne. His words, although loaded with partiality, resonated in court, feeding fear and prejudice. Remember that for them, you were more than a rival, you were a threat to the stability of the kingdom. So, they declared you guilty. The evidence, manipulated or not, rose against you. Now, the decision fell on Isabel I. A decision that would not only affect your life, but would define its reign. Think about pressure. The Scottish nobility, anxious for your execution. Catholics, waiting for a martyr, and the Protestants, fearing a lifting. For Isabel, condemn you was risky. An execution could cause the fury of France and Spain, Catholic powers that saw in you a symbol of their faith. But leaving you alive was to feed conspiracies and instability in its own kingdom. It was a mortal chess game, where each movement had devastating consequences. The political pressure was immense. Their directors, divided, offered you arguments for and against your execution. Some, fearful of international reprisals, advocated clemency. Others, prioritizing the security of his kingdom, asked for your head. You, in your cell, could only wait, knowing the lethal power that rested in the hands of the Virgin Queen. So, there you were, you, Maria Estuardo, waiting for your end in the cold Fotheringhay Tower. The days became a nebula of prayers, clerigo visits, and the constant presence of death. That I imagine that the castle became an echo of your own thoughts, a prison not only of stone, but also of your own mind. Did you remember Scotland? Of the joy of youth, now just a distant memory? They must have been long days, full of uncertainty. The execution was approaching, an inevitable fact that he quoted on you as a storm. You prepared, not only physically, but spiritually. I imagine that every moment was a battle against fear, against loneliness, against mortality itself. Who did you think? To your child, to your country. Your last days were a whirlwind of preparations. The choice of your outfit, the organization of your belongings, the farewell of your few relatives. Each act, a final decision. Each object, a tangible memory of a life that was coming to an end. What did you feel when ordering your things, saying about the world you knew? The day came with a coldness that pump-led to the bones. They took you to the execution room, a great cold and humid stay, illuminated by torches that projected dance shadows on the stone walls. The executioner, an impassive man with tanned face, waited with his tools. The air was loaded with tension, the silence only broken by the beat of your own heart. Prosody, speak. Speak. Prosody rate equals 90%. Remember the moment they placed the bandage over your eyes, a black veil that separated you from the world. You heard the murmur of the expectant crowd behind the doors, a distant and damping sound. However, calm invaded you. A strange peace in the midst of the chaos that was coming. In those seconds, what would happen to your mind? Repentance? Resignation? The blow was fast, almost imperceptible. A moment of pain, and then silence. Your reign, full of intrigues, love, and tragedy, had come to an end. A queen who ruled from a prison, who fought for her crown to the last breath, fell under the edge of the axe, leaving behind a story for posterity. But his death, far from silencing his voice, amplified it. He became a martyr for Catholics, a queen unfairly executed. Think about the image she projected. An intelligent, beautiful woman, victim of the political intrigues of the English court. His story, full of drama and romanticism, fed legends and inspired literary and artistic works for centuries. His reign, although short and marked by the controversy, left a mark in Scotland. Remember your attempts to strengthen Catholicism in a country in the process of religious reform. That struggle for faith, even today, is an integral part of its legacy. His figure, despite his mistakes, symbolizes the resistance and struggle for Scottish independence against the powerful England. And you, what do you think of its impact? Beyond the personal tragedy, Maria Estuardo left an indelible brand in history. His image, reinterpreted over the years, continues to speak of power, religion, intrigue, and, above all, of the complexity of the human condition. Its history continues to inspire and challenge our perceptions about royalty and fate. Think about how history has portrayed it, from the portraits that show it as an elegant and melancholic queen, with her red-haired hair shining under the dim light of a Scottish castle, to the theatrical and literary representations that have immortalized her as a romantic victim, pursued by her faith and ambition. Can you imagine the number of paintings, sculptures, and plays that have had it as the protagonist? His image has been molded and remodeled over the centuries, sometimes idealized, sometimes demonized, depending on the historical and political context. For some, it was a martyr of the Catholic faith. For others, an ambitious and dangerous queen. But whatever the interpretation, his figure has always fascinated and generated debate. Doesn't the persistence of your myth seem incredible? The influence of Mary Estuardo in art is undeniable. From the portraits that immortalized her in her youth, radiant and full of life, to the subsequent representations that showed her as a more mature and suffering figure, she has always been a source of inspiration for artists. Note how painters, sculptors, and writers have captured their essence, their virtues and their defects, through their works. What tell you those images about the complexity of your personality? But the image of Maria Estuardo transcends the canvas. You also know her through the letters, right? His life, full of drama and mystery, has inspired countless authors over the centuries. From poems and theatrical pieces to historical novels, the figure of the captive queen continues to awaken the fascination of writers and readers. Think about the works that have immortalized their story of love, betrayal, and struggle for power. Authors such as Schiller, with her play Maria Estuardo, have presented her in a complex way, showing her virtues and defects, her strengths and weaknesses. It is not a simple heroine or villain. She is a woman of flesh and blood, with a fascinating story, and not only in the theater, The narrative has also thoroughly explored his life. Historical novels, novella biographies, each writer has interpreted their history through their own lens, offering different perspectives and nuances that enrich our understanding of this so controversial queen. You can discover these different interpretations and form your own opinion. And speaking of letters, did you know that the story of Maria Estuardo has also captivated the big screen? Since then, it has been interpreted by iconic actresses, each contributing its own vision of this complex and tragic queen. Some have shown her as a victim of political intrigues, others as a passionate and rebel woman. You will see that cinematographic representations are as diverse as literary interpretations. Remember those historical films, full of sumptuous dresses and palatial conspiracies. Think about the dramatic burden of each scene, the intensity of the looks that express years of struggle for power. Each actress who embodied Maria Estuardo printed her personal seal, creating a unique and memorable image of the Scottish queen. Prosody /speak. Speak. Prosody rate equals 90%, from the most classic to the most modern versions. The figure of Maria Estuardo has been revisited in the cinema, adapting to the sensibilities of each era. Some films focus on their romance with Lord Darnley, others in their rivalry with Isabel I, and others on their imprisonment and execution. You can appreciate the evolution of these interpretations throughout the history of cinema. But how does Maria Estuardo compare with other queens of her time? Think of Isabel I, her cousin. Both fought for power, but Isabel, with her political cunning, managed to keep the throne without being executed. While Mary's determination took her to a tragic end, Isabel weaves a history of survival and dominance. Its reigns, although marked by ambition, show different strategies for the consolidation of power. Unlike Catalina de' Medici, Queen Consort of France, Maria did not handle the intrigues of the court with the same mastery. Catalina was an expert in the policy of power, weaving alliances and driving her enemies with a calculated coldness. Maria, on the contrary, was carried away by her emotions and her loyalties, an error that cost him expensive. It was more a figure of romanticism and tragedy than a cold political strategist. Comparing it with other queens such as Maria Antonietta, centuries later, a significant difference is observed in the historical and social context. Maria Antonietta, despite her luxury life, was more isolated from real power. Maria Estuardo, on the other hand, fought directly for the control of her kingdom, facing the brutal realities of the 16th century politics. Their stories are different, but both represent the challenges and tragedies that women can face in power. Let's see, you have seen how Maria Estuardo's life was full of intrigues and conspiracies. Were your successful political decisions? His insistence on claiming the English throne, despite the consequences, was undoubtedly a crucial factor in his destiny. Can you imagine the pressures he endured? Do you think that a more cautious, more diplomatic strategy would have given better results? Think about your alliances. He married Lord Darnley, an ambitious and possibly dangerous man. Was it a good political decision? Some historians argue that this marriage, far from strengthening its position, weakened it even more, attracting powerful enemies. What do you think? Was Darnley a strategic ally or a ballast? And what to say about their relationship with the Scottish nobles? His attempt to govern with a firm hand, sometimes even cruelly, generated a lot of opposition. Was it an effective strategy to consolidate your power? Or, on the contrary, did he remove her even more from the stability she wanted so much? Remember the context: a divided country, full of rival factions. Analyze your actions in the light of that reality. But think about this. Despite her tragic life, Maria Estuardo continues to fascinate us. Its history, full of drama and mystery, has inspired works of art, books, and movies for centuries. Because it represents the struggle for power, ambition, and the fragility of the human condition in a fascinating historical context. His image, that of an imprisoned queen but never defeated, has become a symbol. Its legacy is not limited to the pages of history books. Its history reminds us of the complexity of power and the consequences of political decisions. The struggle between Scotland and England, alliances and betrayals, everything contributes to a captivating narrative who continues to resonate today. You can see how its history follows us through the different artistic interpretations. So, was it a good queen? That question, friend, does not have a simple answer. His reign was marked by controversy and tragedy, but his story leaves us a valuable lesson. History is not black and white, and understanding the past is crucial to understand the present. Maria Estuardo, the queen who reigned from a jail, leaves us a legacy enduring intrigue, drama, and a reflection on power. I hope you enjoyed the story of Maria Estuardo. If you liked it, give like and subscribe for more. What do you think about your reign from prison? /prosody? /speak.